Hi, welcome to a Roboflow training movie. In this training movie, I'm going to show you how you can assign a file to a record. I have a catalog in which I have, for instance, a record where there's no file yet assigned. And so by running my workflow, I'm going to assign a file to this particular record. It is important when you are assigning a file to a record that if you want also to work with the vault, if this catalog is vaulted, that in the catalog that you set the vault settings to always or to as set in handling set, not to vault always and exclusive, because if it's set to always and exclusive, the Java classes will refuse the assignment of a file which is on the network to a record which expects only vaulted asset references. So if you set it to always, it will work fine. If you set it to always and exclusive, it will not work. The workflow needs to be different in that case. But if this is a one-time workflow, you can just temporarily change it to always, run the workflow and change it back to always and exclusive if that is a problem. But it's very important if you're using the vaulted option. Good. So the workflow is a hot collection workflow, performs a query. In this case, I'm just adding no query, which means it will check all records. The workflow checks if the asset is available. If the asset is available, it doesn't touch the record. If the asset is not available, it will process it. In case this is a workflow that has to run several times or all day long or whatever looking for, then I suggest you have some kind of field in your record that states has been checked or something like this. Otherwise, this workflow will check all your records again. That's fine for 100 records, but not for 50,000 records. And that would take an enormous amount of time just to find those particular files. You could say, why cannot I not search for asset reference has no value? Well, unfortunately, the asset reference field is not searchable. And so that is not an option. Another option could be to check whether there are some special fields like original location or fields like folder name or server name. Those fields could also be filled in case that your fields, your record does not have to be changed. Then you could add this query. But otherwise, it's recommended to create a separate field if this workflow needs to be running all the time. For a one-time run, it doesn't matter. You don't need to add a query. It's just going to check all the records. Then what am I doing? I'm picking up some default file. In this case, it's a default file, but again, there could be some logic behind it. Could be that you have several files on your file system, that in the dummy record you have maybe like a UID, some kind of field that has a unique number pointing to the file it is expecting, and then it could be a dynamically constructed way to find a particular file. In this example, I'm just copying the file to a certain temp folder, and I'm using some field, in this example the record name, to give that particular file a certain name. Can be whatever you like. It could be generic, something like a date timestamp, or could be a combination of fields as well. So don't forget to define your permission template and your asset handling set. Asset handling set, important, vault needs to be enabled if you're using this option. So if you set this option to yes, move to vault, it will, after assigning the file to the record, also move it to the vault. And then finally, you can set some field values. So you could, in this example, I'm just setting the record name to the file name I've just assigned. But you could also leave this empty. You could also set multiple file names just by separating this by a hash, tab hash, tab. So then you could set multiple fields to multiple values. Okay, let's have a quick look at the result before looking at the actual action script. So if I run this workflow, I say start. Show log. As I said, and let's go all the way to the bottom, it finds all the records in this case because our query was find everything. But it's doing nothing on the records that have a valid asset reference, a valid asset. But then finally it comes to my record called 328, and it's assigning a file which it has called 328.jpg, and then it is moving it to the vault, so you can see that it's in that location in the vault. If I look in the record, I can see that now suddenly it is a file, and in the file you can see here the information, and you have a file in your vault assigned to this record. How does it work behind the scenes? Well, behind the scenes it looks like this. The first instruction is test whether, and this is hot collection, so this action script is executed for each individual record that it finds as a result of the query, and then it tests if this is record has a valid asset, if it can access the asset. It can be a vaulted asset, can be a file system asset, that doesn't matter. It just says, does this record have an asset, yes or no? If it's an exclamation mark in front of it, so I'm inverting the test. So if it does not, then I'm going in here, I'm storing the target temporary folder, I'm picking up the file, the dummy file, and then I'm copying the dummy file to that temp folder, and I'm setting the file name to whatever I've defined in my parameters, and I'm calling the output variable, the file, the hot object. Then I'm storing a part of the file being the file path. That's just not even used, but doesn't matter. And then I'm here set asset reference. I'm setting the hot record to the hot file using these Cumulus asset handling set and permission templates defined in the parameters, and I'm saying that it needs to update the record, making sure that it creates a thumbnail and all other stuff, all other fields that it should be assigning during an update. Then I'm storing the asset reference field as text to be able to output it here in the log. And I'm setting the values that were defined in the parameters. Finally, I'm checking whether this file was vaulted or not. If this file is vaulted, then I'm if the option to vault it, if the move to vault is set to yes, then I'm going to say, okay, yes, it needs to be moved to the vault, so I'm moving the asset to the vault. I'm again storing the asset reference to be able to write that to the log saying vaulted, and then you get the path to the log. If you move it to the vault, as a precaution, it is also deleting that dummy file after the move to the vault. So that temporary file, so to make sure that you don't have any files running around on your file system that are already in the vault. So that's technically how this works. Pretty straightforward workflow. Just remember my remark about the vault and always an exclusive, because if you're using always an exclusive instead of here setting the asset reference, you need to catalog that file. You will create a new dummy record. You pick up from that record the asset reference value. It's store asset reference value. It's storing the asset reference value in memory. Then you do a set asset reference value, not set asset reference value of the record, of the hot record in this case. And then you delete that dummy record that was creating by cataloging it. And that's how you pick up the asset reference, which will be vaulted if it's exclusive, and then you're assigning it. So But I didn't do it that way because this is much faster than the other way and much less complicated. So that's it. Thank you for joining this training movie. Hope to see you in another one.